Imagine waking up in the endless void of space, centuries after you closed your eyes. The hum of ancient machinery fills the air, and the faint glow of distant stars casts eerie shadows on the walls. You are part of a crew whose mission was supposed to change humanity's destiny, but something is terribly wrong. The mission you remember never happened. The ship you trusted has been tampered with. And somewhere out there, in the cold expanse of the universe, lies an answer that could rewrite everything you thought you knew. What would you do? Who can you trust? And what secrets lie buried in the silence of the cosmos? This is the story of a forgotten mission, a tale of survival, betrayal, and discovery that will leave you questioning everything. Subscribe now to uncover the truth behind this interstellar mystery. And don't forget to share your thoughts. If you woke up after centuries of sleep, only to find your purpose erased, what would be the first thing you'd want to know? The first sensation was not sound, but vibration, a low, resonant thrum that seemed to emanate from every surface. It pulsed through the bones of those who lay still, cocooned in stasis pods that had kept them suspended for centuries beyond measure. One by one, their eyes flickered open, adjusting to the dim light of the chamber. Their bodies felt foreign, stiffened by the ravages of time no human should have endured. Monitors blinked above each pod, spitting out streams of data that none of them could immediately decipher. Around them, the ship groaned as if protesting its own age, metal expanding and contracting under invisible stresses. None of them spoke, not yet. There was no need. They all shared the same confusion, the same gnawing sense that something was profoundly amiss. The air smelled stale, recycled too many times over, laced with traces of ozone and decay. Dust clung to every surface, fine enough to shimmer when disturbed. This was not how they remembered leaving Earth. Back then, the corridors had gleamed with pristine perfection, humming with the optimism of pioneers setting out to chart new worlds. Now, the ship felt like a relic, abandoned even before its passengers awoke. Slowly, they began to move, their limbs creaking like rusted hinges. Each step echoed unnaturally loud in the cavernous halls, disturbing the oppressive quiet that had settled over the vessel. Panels along the walls displayed cryptic messages in languages some barely recognized. Others were entirely alien, symbols twisting into shapes that defied comprehension. A chill ran down their spines, not just from the temperature, but from the growing realization that this place, once familiar, had become hostile territory. As the crew gathered in what remained of the command center, fragments of memory began to resurface. They recalled the launch, the cheers of humanity watching from afar, the solemn vows made before embarking on what was supposed to be a journey of hope. The mission, to establish contact with a distant civilization believed capable of uplifting Earth's struggling species, had been clear. Every detail had been etched into their minds during training, drilled into them until it became second nature. Yet now, staring at the cracked screens and malfunctioning consoles, none of it seemed real anymore. The logs were gone, or corrupted beyond repair. Whatever records might have explained their current predicament had been erased, replaced by garbled lines of code and static-filled images. Someone tried accessing the navigation system, hoping to pinpoint their location, but the star charts bore no resemblance to anything they had studied. Entire constellations appeared shifted, distorted, as though the universe itself had rearranged while they slept. Panic bubbled beneath the surface, restrained only by years of discipline ingrained in each member of the team. They turned instead to physical remnants scattered throughout the ship, faded photographs pinned to bulletin boards, personal journals left behind by earlier shifts, even graffiti scrawled on bulkheads. These artifacts painted a picture far darker than any of them could have imagined. Entries spoke of dwindling supplies, of systems failing faster than expected, of decisions made under duress. Phrases like mission parameters altered and priority override initiated recurred frequently, hinting at forces beyond their control reshaping their fate without consent. It didn't take long for evidence of tampering to emerge. Panels removed from maintenance shafts revealed wiring that had been crudely spliced together, circuits rerouted in ways that violated every safety protocol. In some areas, sections of wall paneling were missing altogether, exposing skeletal frames corroded by exposure to vacuum. Tools lay abandoned where they had fallen, their handles worn smooth by use long past. Whoever, or whatever, had meddled with the ship hadn't bothered cleaning up afterward. One crew member knelt beside a damaged console, running gloved fingers over jagged edges where components had been forcibly extracted. The craftsmanship was crude, almost desperate, suggesting whoever did this lacked proper equipment or expertise. But why? What could possibly drive someone to sabotage a vessel carrying the last vestiges of Earth's ambition? Was it sabotage or merely survival? The distinction blurred as they pieced together more clues. Among the debris, they found fragments of uniforms bearing insignias unlike any they recognized. Some bore markings reminiscent of Earth-based organizations, but altered slightly, as if mimicking authenticity without fully committing to it. Others featured designs so alien they might as well have come from another galaxy. Whoever these intruders were, they had left their mark indelibly upon the ship, transforming it into something neither wholly theirs nor entirely its original self. Sound carried strangely aboard the aged spacecraft, bouncing off walls and reverberating through empty corridors until it became impossible to discern origin from echo. At first, the crew dismissed the faint whispers they heard as tricks of perception, auditory hallucinations born of stress and isolation. But the voices persisted, growing louder and more distinct the deeper they ventured into unexplored regions of the ship. At times, the murmurs sounded almost human, snippets of conversation drifting just out of reach. Other moments brought eerie chants, rhythmic cadences devoid of recognizable language, yet undeniably deliberate. Occasionally, laughter erupted, sharp, hollow bursts that sent shivers down their spines. None dared speak aloud, fearing their own words might amplify whatever force lingered unseen. In quieter moments, individual members reported hearing names called softly, as though beckoning them forward. Each name corresponded to someone present, whispered with unsettling familiarity. It wasn't paranoia driving them to glance over shoulders or double-check shadows. It was the creeping certainty that they weren't alone. Something, or someone, watched them, moving silently through vents and crawl spaces, always staying one step ahead. Deep within the bowels of the ship, hidden behind layers of reinforced plating, lay the core, a massive sphere pulsating with energy that illuminated the surrounding chamber in hues of blue and violet. Its presence dominated the space, radiating heat strong enough to warm skin despite the freezing temperatures elsewhere. Yet for all its power, the core appeared unstable, flickering erratically like a dying star caught mid-collapse. Proximity triggered sensors embedded in the walls, flooding the room with additional light and activating dormant displays. Data streamed across holographic interfaces, detailing fluctuations in output and warning of imminent failure. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, understanding instinctively that this was the heart of their problem. Without the core functioning properly, the ship wouldn't survive another jump through hyperspace, let alone complete whatever twisted mission awaited them. Closer inspection revealed signs of tampering here too. Wires had been disconnected and reconnected haphazardly, bypassing safeguards designed to prevent catastrophic overload. Notes scrawled hastily on nearby surfaces hinted at attempts to stabilize the core using unconventional methods likely responsible for its current volatility. Whoever had done this possessed knowledge far surpassing standard engineering practices, raising questions about their true intentions. Desperate for answers, the crew turned their attention skyward, scanning the heavens for patterns that might guide them. Through cracked viewports and malfunctioning telescopes, they observed constellations warped beyond recognition, stars burning brighter or dimmer than recorded history suggested. Navigation algorithms spat out coordinates pointing nowhere near their intended destination, instead directing them toward regions marked as hazardous or uncharted. Against all odds, they discovered anomalies amidst the chaos, clusters of stars aligned in formations eerily similar to symbols found etched into the ship's interior. These celestial markers seemed deliberate, guiding lights meant to lead travelers toward specific points in space. Following these breadcrumbs required recalibrating instruments nearly beyond salvage, piecing together broken equipment with salvage parts and sheer determination. Each successful calculation brought both relief and dread. Relief because progress meant regaining control over their situation, dread because the implications grew increasingly dire. If the stars themselves served as signposts, Then whoever altered their course wielded influence fast enough to manipulate cosmic phenomena. Such power defied comprehension, hinting at forces operating on scales unimaginable to mere mortals. Exploring further, the crew stumbled upon chambers sealed off from general access, their doors fused shut by layers of corrosion and neglect. Forcing entry proved challenging, requiring tools repurposed from other tasks and brute strength applied relentlessly. When finally breached, these rooms revealed relics of lives once lived aboard the ship, personal belongings left behind, frozen meals half prepared, entertainment devices powered down mid-use. Photographs adorned walls, capturing faces smiling confidently against backdrops of pristine laboratories and recreation areas. Children played in zero gravity, laughing freely as parents looked on indulgently. Couples embraced, oblivious to cameras capturing fleeting moments of happiness. All traces of joy seemed impossibly distant now, preserved like insects trapped in amber. But alongside these snapshots of normalcy lurked darker reminders. Medical bays overflowed with unused supplies, surgical tools gleaming untouched beneath protective covers. Cryogenic tanks stood empty, their occupants presumably transferred elsewhere, or worse. Logs detailing psychological evaluations hinted at rising tensions among earlier crews, conflicts escalating unchecked until resolution became impossible. These ghosts of the past haunted every corner, whispering warnings ignored at peril. Night fell artificially aboard the ship, artificial lighting dimming to simulate cycles lost to time. Darkness enveloped corridors, casting elongated shadows that danced unpredictably across bulkheads. Movement continued despite reduced visibility, figures navigating cautiously between flickering emergency lamps. Each footstep echoed exaggeratedly, amplified by silence pressing heavily against eardrums. Then came the stirring, not footsteps exactly, but subtle shifts in ambient noise levels. Creaks intensified, metallic groans stretching longer than physics allowed. Air ducts vibrated sporadically, releasing gusts of stale atmosphere smelling faintly of burnt circuitry. Doors hissed open unexpectedly, closing again moments later without explanation. Equipment powered on randomly, screens displaying gibberish before shutting down abruptly. Crew members exchanged wary glances, acknowledging silently the presence stalking them invisibly. No one voiced suspicions aloud, unwilling to give voice to fears threatening sanity already stretched thin. Instead, they tightened grips on makeshift weapons fashioned from available materials, prepared to defend themselves against threats undefined yet palpably real. Amidst mounting tension, clarity dawned unexpectedly. Buried deep within encrypted files recovered painstakingly from damaged servers, a single document surfaced containing directives starkly different from original mission parameters. Words leapt off pages, commanding redirection toward objectives, prioritizing acquisition over exploration. References to resources unspecified hinted at exploitation rather than cooperation, conquest replacing diplomacy entirely. Shock rippled through ranks as implications sank in fully. Centuries spent adrift hadn't merely delayed arrival, they'd fundamentally altered purpose. Instead of ambassadors seeking mutual benefit, they'd become unwitting agents tasked with securing advantages regardless of cost. Motivations driving alterations remained unclear, obscured deliberately to ensure compliance post-awakening. Understanding ignited resolve. Regardless of imposed agendas, autonomy demanded reclaiming agency. Choices loomed ahead fraught with uncertainty, yet freedom offered opportunity unparalleled. Determination hardened expressions, steeling resolve against challenges awaiting beyond horizon lines redrawn arbitrarily. With renewed focus, preparations commenced swiftly. Repairs accelerated, prioritizing critical systems essential for travel resumed cautiously. Supplies rationed meticulously, extended lifespans artificially prolonged indefinitely. Morale bolstered collectively, shared purpose uniting disparate individuals bound loosely previously. Navigation recalibrated based partially restored star maps, guided trajectory adjustments, steering steadily albeit uncertainly. Hyperspace jumps executed tentatively tested limits, strain severely enduring strain, remarkably resilient. Progress measured incrementally, celebrated modestly, acknowledged milestones achieved collectively, reinforcing camaraderie, forged adversity, faced unitedly. Challenges persisted relentlessly, testing endurance, pushed boundaries, expanded exponentially. Yet perseverance prevailed triumphantly, overcoming obstacles surmounted courageously, reaffirming commitment, steadfast, unwavering dedication, honoring sacrifices, endured silently, commemorating legacies, inherited respectfully. Emerging cautiously from hyperspace, the crew found themselves face to face with an object unlike anything they had ever encountered. It loomed ahead, a colossal structure that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Its surface shimmered with iridescent hues, shifting and pulsating as if alive. The ship's sensors struggled to make sense of it, readings fluctuating wildly between solid matter, energy fields, and something entirely unclassifiable. The object radiated a low-frequency hum that resonated through the hull, vibrating in their chests like a heartbeat. It was neither welcoming nor hostile, but exuded an aura of ancient indifference, as though it had been waiting for eons, uncaring whether anyone would arrive to witness its existence. Attempts to communicate yielded no response. Every signal sent into the void was absorbed without acknowledgement. Yet, there was an undeniable pull, a gravitational force, both literal and metaphysical, that drew the ship inexorably closer. As they approached, details began to emerge. The structure appeared to be composed of countless interlocking components, each resembling fragments of civilizations long extinguished. Jagged spires jutted out at impossible angles, adorned with glyphs and patterns that hinted at languages extinct before humanity first walked upright. Some sections glowed faintly, while others remained dark, creating an uneven mosaic of light and shadow. It was as though the object was not a single entity but a patchwork of histories stitched together by forces beyond comprehension. With no clear alternative, the decision was made to investigate further. A shuttlecraft detached from the main vessel, carrying a small team equipped with rudimentary tools and recording devices. As they neared the structure, the air inside the shuttle grew thick with tension. Every movement outside felt deliberate, as if the object itself was observing them, weighing their intentions. When they finally docked, or rather, when the shuttle was pulled into a docking bay that materialized out of thin air, the silence aboard their craft became suffocating. Stepping onto the surface of the structure felt surreal. The ground beneath their boots shifted slightly, soft yet firm, like walking on living tissue. Walls stretched infinitely upward, curving inward until they met overhead in a dome-like configuration. Light filtered down from unseen sources, casting everything in a golden hue that softened edges and blurred distinctions. Strange symbols floated in midair, rotating slowly as if inviting interaction. Touching one elicited a cascade of images, visions of stars being born, planets crumbling, and beings evolving only to vanish into dust. Deeper within, the environment changed unpredictably. Hallways widened into cavernous chambers filled with crystalline formations that sang when brushed against. Doors opened onto vistas of alien landscapes, complete with skies painted in colors unknown to Earth. Each step forward revealed more questions than answers, leaving the team awestruck and disoriented. They were pilgrims in a temple built by gods who had long since abandoned it, their presence an intrusion into a sacred space untouched by time. The deeper they ventured, the stronger the sensations became. Sounds coalesced into coherent whispers, voices speaking in tones both melodic and mournful. These weren't random noises. They carried meaning, layered narratives woven into the fabric of the structure itself. Fragments of stories unfolded. One told of a civilization that ascended too quickly, collapsing under the weight of its own ambition. Another spoke of symbiotic races uniting to create harmony across galaxies, only to succumb to entropy. And then there were warnings, dire prophecies about the consequences of tampering with forces beyond mortal understanding. These tales weren't merely auditory, they manifested physically. Walls rippled, displaying scenes of triumph and tragedy played out in vivid detail. Figures moved silently through these projections, their forms translucent yet imbued with emotion. Some reached out as if pleading for help, while others recoiled in fear or anger. It was as though the structure served as a repository for memories, not just of those who created it, but of all who had interacted with it over millennia. Among these echoes, the crew discovered traces of humanity's influence. Symbols resembling Earth's earliest writing systems appeared intermittently, accompanied by fleeting glimpses of familiar faces. This revelation shook them to their core. Had humans somehow contributed to this enigmatic edifice? Or had their legacy been appropriated, twisted into something unrecognizable? Either possibility raised unsettling implications about Earth's role in the cosmos. At the heart of the structure lay a chamber unlike any other. Its walls pulsed rhythmically, synchronized with the core of the ship they had left behind. In the center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystalline orb glowing with an inner fire. Approaching it triggered a surge of information flooding directly into their minds. Visions of timelines branching and converging, decisions made and undone, futures rewritten, all intertwined with the fate of their mission. They understood now why their course had been altered. The structure wasn't merely an artifact. It was a nexus point, a convergence of possibilities designed to guide sentient species towards self-realization. Their original mission, to establish contact with a distant civilization, had been deemed irrelevant. Instead, they were redirected here, chosen to bear witness to truths that could either elevate or destroy their kind. The changes to their mission parameters hadn't been malicious but pragmatic, ensuring they arrived precisely where they were needed most. Yet choice remained theirs. The orb offered two paths: integrate its knowledge into their collective consciousness, risking madness or transcendence, or leave unchanged, continuing their journey blind to the greater context. Each option carried weight, burdening them with responsibility far exceeding their initial mandate. To decide meant accepting accountability not just for themselves, but for all who followed. In the end, they chose integration. The process was excruciating, memories overlapping with visions until individual identities blurred into unity. Pain gave way to clarity, revealing connections previously invisible. They saw humanity not as isolated, but as part of a vast tapestry stretching across dimensions. Their struggles, triumphs, and failures mattered because they contributed to a larger narrative, one still unfolding. Returning to the ship, they found themselves transformed. Movements were synchronized, thoughts shared instinctively. Words felt unnecessary, replaced by an unspoken bond forged in the crucible of revelation. Repairs completed swiftly, systems functioning flawlessly under newfound understanding. Hyperspace coordinates recalibrated automatically, guiding them toward destinations unknown yet somehow familiar. As they departed, the structure faded from view, dissolving into stardust. But its essence lingered, embedded within them. They carried forward not just as survivors, but as emissaries of a truth few could grasp. Whether they succeeded or failed mattered less than the attempt itself, the willingness to embrace uncertainty and strive for growth. And so, their journey continued, not bound by mission parameters, but driven by purpose rediscovered. Somewhere among the stars, another story awaited, another chapter ready to be written. Subscribe now to follow their odyssey and uncover what lies ahead. What do you think awaits them next? Share your thoughts below.